Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra.
And welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Bison Media Zone on a Wednesday. We got our guy Mike McFeely. We missed him on Hot Mike yesterday, so we could not go a week without you. So I appreciate it.
We were getting requests on Twitter for me to join you.
Yes.
So, and from somebody who doesn't necessarily like my politics in the world, so that just shows how great my sports takes are.
Exactly. Your football takes are spot on. So
yes, always.
He's grinding through this year like Cam Miller. You're 99% available to do Bison Media Zone.
I am.
So
everything's fine. Everything's fine. We don't need to get into the details. Everything's fine.
Cam Miller, is he fine? Tim Polisic said yesterday at his press conference, 99% sure he's going to play in the football game
You know what,
Saturday.
though? That leaves this much of a door. So you're saying there's a chance, Tim Polisic.
It stems from this play late in the third quarter where it did look worse than maybe it is. I don't know. Polisic said that Miller was in a boot on Monday, pretty tentative in it. They were going to let him go a little bit more yesterday. Didn't need to be in the boot. Polisic said that as well.
Yeah, he was in a boot. Didn't need to be in the boot.
So you parse through words better than anybody. How do we parse through what Polisic said about this situation?
I think that there probably is a pretty good chance that Cam Miller will play. That's what I'm picking up on. But coaches being coaches, everything's a nuclear submarine secret, right? I mean, so I think Tim is leaving also open the possibility that he might not play, and he wants Nick Hill and the Southern Illinois Salukis to wonder if he's going to play. And he said yesterday they're going to put in a package for Cole Payton just in case Cam can't go. And then I said, well, so would you maybe think of holding Cam out since you know that you have Cole? No.
We're not good enough.
No. So, you want your starting quarterback. You want your, right now, All-American quarterback, your Walter Payton favorite quarterback to play. But, I mean, if you get up by 4 scores in the third quarter, I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
I'm not looking ahead. But if you get up by 4 scores in the third quarter, then do you make the decision to take your All-American quarterback out of the game?
First off, Nick Hill's got a lot to worry about rather than Cam Miller, which we'll get to in a minute on that. But I think your question was fine on that. I think it's something I thought of as well. Do you not play him at all? There's any chance that he's not 100% and wait for next week.
Right, and see that's I suppose the trouble is that Southern Illinois is capable, I suppose. I mean, it's not, with all due respect to Valparaiso, it's not Valparaiso where you could win with your second string by 30 points.
Correct. Yep.
And so I suppose you have to play your best players. It's football, and Tim said it matters if your quarterback goes out there. It's set, you can't be holding out your quarterback and saying, he has an owie, and then tell your left tackle to get out there even though his leg is hanging by a thread.
And you're also telling your opponent, we can beat you with our backups, that we're not, we don't worry about that, which regardless, in today's day and age, you look for any sort of inspiration, that, especially for a team that's walking wounded like SIU, they would run to the bank with that.
They would, I don't know how much that matters in this game. Maybe it will. Again, Southern Illinois has a history of being pretty good. I mean, they
give the Bison fits down there too.
They did,
tough.
And so we'll see how it all turns out. But that was the reason why I asked the question was, there's a bigger game next week. I know you got to win this one first. And I guess you can't be eating the crumbs. No, you have to eat the crumbs.
Not the
full meal. Not the big meal.
Yeah.
That's another Polisicism that we have now in the bank. You got to eat the crumbs, not the full meal.
Yes.
And so the Bison have to eat the crumbs this weekend and then try to eat the full meal next weekend against South Dakota State.
Should we look ahead? Can we do that? Are we allowed to do
we're
that?
allowed to.
Yeah, we're allowed to
The players
do that.
can't, the coaches can't, but we can do whatever we want.
Monday, the news broke that the Jacks Bison game will be in prime time, first regular season home night game for the Bison since 2016 when they played Charleston Southern. We'll find out on Monday if it's going to be either ESPN2 or ESPNU. It's 1 versus 2. You wrote it yesterday. I thought it was perfect that if there's one FCS game to be excited about, it's certainly going to be this one. And the Jackrabbits have Youngstown at home this week. They're going to take care of Doug.
They're not looking ahead.
No, right.
They are not looking ahead.
We can look ahead.
They are eating crumbs and then eating the full meal next weekend.
But what do we make of this, that ESPN swooped in and likely going to be 1 versus 2 and going to get a prime
It's going to be great.
game?
It's going to be absolutely great. I know that it stinks for the local partners in the broadcast world, and that's a discussion topic that you and I have had both publicly and privately. I've written about it before. But if you're North Dakota State and South Dakota State, you want to be on national television. Obviously, ESPN2,
Yes.
with my limited television knowledge, is much preferable to ESPNU because in more homes. But this is a way to showcase North Dakota State and South Dakota State and NDSU's biggest rival, period, and South Dakota State's biggest rival. And you know what? Maybe the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference is watching on television going, wow, there's 19,000 people in the stands going absolutely ballistic for every big North Dakota State play. And when UTEP was on TV, here I go, Kolpak. When UTEP was on TV last week, there was 13 people in the stands. They're terrible. And both of these teams in Fargo, not that this matters, all right, Gloria, not that this matters, both of these teams would stomp UTEP.
Yes.
I'm talking about NDSU and SDSU because we're looking ahead.
Yep.
Both of those teams would stomp Texas El Paso.
We just saw, Montana State beat a team in her league in New Mexico earlier this season. So she's already seen that firsthand of what happened with an FCS.
But be that as it may, it's going to be a great ball game. The marker's on the line. The marker really doesn't know much about Fargo anymore.
Not in the last 5 years.
It's spent a lot of, it's pretty much established residency in the 605.
And if we're talking about the previous topic, the quarterback, if Cam Miller, that's the game.
Yes.
Anything he's done, he's won a national championship. He's had an unreal start to this season. He's got numerous records now in the Bison record. The one thing he doesn't have is a win against South Dakota State.
No, and we've talked about it before, that's not
Well,
about
next
the
week.
quarterback, and we'll talk about it a lot next week because that will be one of the
Yes.
narratives of next week. But he needs to kind of, for his sake and more importantly for NDSU's sake, he needs to check that off the list.
Can I do this to you and torment you? Can we talk bracketology for a minute here on October the 9th? But if the loser of that game, I still think has an inside track to the 2 seed.
I do not.
If they win out. If they win out, if you're 10 and 2.
I don't think Montana State's going to lose.
Okay.
So
maybe 11,
I
maybe
think
12 and 0 then.
I think this is such a huge game for both the Bison and the Jacks for that reason. That if you lose this game, I think
You're the 3.
you could be the 3.
Okay.
And yes, you still got to go to USD.
They
Too.
do.
That's
that
not,
game
that's
at the
not
end of
going
the
to be
year
an easy
still.
one.
And South
That's not gonna be an
Dakota's
easy one.
hanging around. By the way, the Coyotes play the Jacks. Can we look that far ahead? That's 2 weeks down the road. That
No,
game's in Brookings.
we can't. That's not allowed.
When
We can only
USD
look
plays
1 week ahead.
SDSU. You have Montana State going 12 and 0.
Look at their schedule.
All right.
Who do they play?
Well, they got Idaho this week. We're going to feature that in a
okay.
minute. And then Montana.
So
at the end of the
how
year.
many points is Montana State going to score against Montana?
Yeah, right. Could be a lot.
431.
Could be a lot.
Come on, man.
Let's talk about Southern Illinois. Boy, Nick Hill's just scratching his head. What's going on here?
Yep.
The Salukis are 2-4. They've lost their last 3 games. They're down to a third-string quarterback that just got on campus in June, a redshirt freshman. That after injuries to G.J. Williams and then Hunter Simmons over the weekend, and their loss to Illinois State, they're giving up points in bunches, which is not what we're used to with a Southern Illinois defense. This is not like we're used to with SIU right now.
Well, Nick Hill opened his press conference yesterday saying that he was going to ask for a waiver for his graduate assistant on defense because he has experience playing quarterback. It's sort of the Zeb Nolan.
No, there's no
Remember
doubt.
NDSU's old quarterback Zeb Nolan went down to South Carolina to start his coaching career, and then Shane Beamer said, you know what, we need a quarterback, Zeb. So they gave him a waiver. He played, and Southern Illinois is in the same boat. I don't know if this. I actually thought that Nick was joking when he opened his press conference. I kind of went, oh, okay, what? Yeah, okay. And I went, oh, he's not joking.
No.
He's not joking. He's dead on serious.
that. No.
So they're down to a true freshman, and the kid's a recruit. I mean, I assume he's a scholarship recruit, and he's the one quarterback that a coach brings in every year. And they've had a history of having some decent quarterbacks, and Nick Hill is a quarterback and quarterbacks coach himself. So I'm sure they see a lot of promise in him.
Coached up as best they
But
can. Yeah.
but man, it's hard to come in as a true freshman and hasn't really played it all this year other than last week.
And threw
Maybe
2
some
picks
mop-up
last
duty.
week, right.
And then you ain't playing Murray State and you ain't playing Indiana State. You're playing the number 2 team in the country that has found its footing defensively
Right.
and caused some real problems for the last 2 opponents.
That's what I was going to lead into, too, because the Bison defense, it's not like they're scuffling here. The last 2 weeks, we've seen vintage Bison defense. I look at the linebacker spot that Wirtz has been out. Kubitz has played the whole time, and, boy, that's been a night and day. We talked about the safety switch last week. I'll look at that linebacker spot has been totally different, too.
Yeah, and I don't know. if Luke Wirtz has a back problem
Yeah.
and has had that for a while, which is unfortunate.
That goes back
It
3
goes back
years.
3
Yeah.
years in his career, which is really unfortunate. He was really a highly touted recruit. Really a lot of high hopes for him. And he's had a nice career at North Dakota State. I'm not saying that. But you wonder if it's almost they always talk about riding the hot hand at running back or riding the hot hand at quarterback or riding the hot hand at offensive line.
Right.
Are they riding the hot hand at middle linebacker? Or is that the result of Luke Wirtz not being able to play? Is probably a better way to phrase
Right.
it. Is with Luke Wirtz being unavailable, is that getting Nick Kubitz on the field all the time and getting him in a rhythm and getting him out there seeing things? He's got speed. He can get to the sidelines. He can move. I'm wondering if you're Grant Olson, what do you do when Luke can come back? Do you say, he's a sixth-year senior, he's a captain, get on out there? Or do you say, gosh, we're playing so well with Nick in the middle, and he's playing so well that how do you take him off the field?
That's a good question. Maybe a good problem to have. I'll throw another name out there on the defensive line, Cody Heisman, who had his best game as a Bison last Saturday against UND, was in the Fighting Hawks backfield. Again, we talked about the interior of that defensive line need to play better. They certainly do next week, but they're trending in that direction right now.
There's a highlight out there on social media, I think from the All 11. I think Ross at the Bison Report had it, but it showed Heisman just absolutely throwing aside his blocker, and then he grabbed Sawyer Seidel, the UND running back, and threw him down on the turf. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I didn't notice it during the game, being at the Dome. I saw the tackle, of course. I didn't see what led up to it, but holy man, he just destroyed the guy across from him on the line of scrimmage, and then just grabbed Seidel and just hammered him.
That's something, again, pop plays on defense. We talked about it earlier in the season.
We talked about that the first few weeks. Remember that? It's like nobody's popping. Like nobody's making those plays where you go, whoa, that was one of them. Sam Young, we've talked a lot about the last couple of weeks. He's made several of them. Obviously, Eli Mostert has made several of them against both Illinois State and UND. I mean, you're starting to see those plays now where you go, okay, he's getting to the ball. They just look like there's a whole different cadence to them. They just look way more confident, and I'm sure it goes far beyond that, but
they're flying out there.
They look really good. Yep.
Playing with confidence. Maybe that's the biggest thing out of
And
the whole
Tim Paulsek wants to take questions on the run defense, by the way. He wants to take those questions. He pointed that out Saturday after the game.
He certainly did.
Cannot wait to take questions about the run defense.
Did.
That was a shot, I think, at you and I and Kolpak and everybody else because we've been questioning their run defense.
I would certainly think that's the case.
I don't think he was looking directly at you and me, but he was looking somewhere in our neighborhood.
General direction, there's no doubt. We'll come back. We'll take a look at the games coming up in Week 7 and also about where the Missouri Valley Football Conference stands here in 2024. We're back in the Bison Media Zone. We'll return right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Look at some of the games of the week that we're highlighting. The Bison, Southern Illinois, which we'll again remind everybody that's exclusive to ESPN Plus this week. We'll be back from Carbondale. Probably catch the second half of Idaho, Montana State on ESPN2. Remember last year, the Vandals beat the Cats. That game was in Moscow. This year it's in Bozeman.
Yeah, that game, maybe I'm misreading what I think is going to happen, but Idaho lost to Cal Davis. They just about lost to, was it McNeese? No.
Abilene Christian.
Abilene Christian, rather, yep. And so they have problems at quarterback. We'll see what Idaho is.
What do we make of Montana, by the way? They've given up 105 points the last 2 weeks. They got Northern Arizona
I have talked
in.
to my Montana sources, and they say this is the worst defense that Montana's had in years.
Okay.
And really not a very talented team.
Okay.
To my sources' credit, they said from the start of the season, this is not a good Montana team. That this is the least talented Bobby Hauck team since probably, 2017, something like that. So.
Nichols and Incarnate Word meeting as well in a Southland game, two former Bison playoff opponents there. Keep an eye on that one for whoever wins, probably the inside track to win the Southland. I wanted to hit on something that you wrote about. I know our colleague Matt Zimmer wrote about, and I just said this: as the Missouri Valley bottomed out, where are we at right now? Where it's as top heavy as it's ever been right now.
Well, is it though?
In my opinion,
NDSU and SDSU have always been a cut above, right? At least for the last 7 years.
Yes. Yep.
And if this is what you mean by top heavy, is that the middle and bottom teams, there's just
They're going that way.
they're going the
trending
wrong way, right?
Yep.
And I know that Matt included, saying the Dakota schools are the only thing that's. But boy, I mean, UND, did they look like they were legit?
Top 10 team. No.
Top 10 team. To me, they didn't. I haven't seen enough of USD, frankly, to know. I think they are, but I haven't. The last time I saw USD, they were getting steamrolled by North Dakota
the Bison,
State.
yep.
And so Matt had it right that the money isn't there for the middle teams and the lower teams. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
And FCS, as I've said many times, as you've said, in the transfer portal era, how do you keep people at these schools? I mean, Youngstown State lost how many players to the portal?
Ravaged there.
Northern Iowa, they're not going to keep anybody at Northern Iowa.
No.
NDSU has trouble keeping players.
Right.
I mean, if NDSU is having trouble, this is what we said all along. When these other schools were, chuckling at North Dakota State because they were losing all, we said, well, whoa.
Just wait a minute.
Just wait a second here because you're going to lose players too.
Yep.
We saw it last year with UND. I mean, last year's UND team was better than the team they have now.
Yes.
I mean,
Yep.
the offensive line was way better. The quarterback play was better.
Yep.
The defensive line was better.
Yep.
And a lot of that has to do with the transfer portal. They had some kids graduate,
Yep.
but a lot. So, anyway, I think that it's a tough spot that FCS is in everywhere other than Montana State.
Yeah.
Should be Montana. Idaho's fine in terms of long term.
Yep.
And then NDSU, SDSU, and we'll see where UND. I mean, USD has done this for 1 year.
Right. I'm not ready to.
They were 3-8 2 years
Correct.
ago. And I know that they have a new AD there who's really aggressive and is really supposedly raising a bunch of money,
Yep.
which is good for them.
Yep.
Finally where they should be. But they've done it for 1 year now.
I tweeted this out. From 2012 to 2017, every school in the Valley outside of SIU and Mo State made the playoffs. And then since 18, that includes Western Illinois and Indiana State made the playoffs in that stretch.
Western Illinois used to be a bugger.
They won a playoff game.
They used to be a bugger for NDSU.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was early. It was early in Division I.
Nielsen was coaching
but,
there, yeah.
But, I mean, you'd go down to Macomb. It was when Carson, they had to run a trick play.
Beat the Leathernecks.
They had to run a trick play when Carson Wentz was the quarterback.
And John Crockett was the running back.
In a national championship year
Yep.
to beat Western Illinois.
Correct.
I mean, think about that.
Right.
And so Indiana State came up here and beat NDSU.
Yes.
And, I mean, it used to be a dogfight every year at Youngstown just about. Southern Illinois, they've been good. I have no problem. They're going through a rough
Northern Iowa
stretch.
was the one that Kolpeg and I talked about the other day.
But Northern Iowa is the one where,
Yeah.
I mean, I texted Matt Zimmer this after I read his story. I said, North Dakota State changed what they were doing. Craig Bohl changed his long-term plan after they got their rear ends kicked by Northern Iowa in 2008, I think it was. I mean, Craig Bohl had a vision. They played Northern Iowa down there, just got physically manhandled, and Craig said, we need more players like those guys over there. And so think about that.
Yep.
And now it's just not good.
No, I mean, you look at, Illinois State, Youngstown, Northern Iowa. Mo State's leaving SIU.
Yeah.
And they added Murray. They added Murray.
Can we have a segment sometime? Maybe after NDSU plays Murray State. Can we have a segment on that?
Sure.
Maybe on your show.
We
on
can
Hot
set
Mic.
that, absolutely.
Yep.
I can't wait.
I might go off on that.
That's fine.
Yep.
Don't forget, everybody, we will be with you. Bison game to be live at 10 a.m. Saturday. We'll be there on WDAY for that. But again, a reminder, the football game itself is on ESPN Plus on Saturday. We'll be there for full highlights, reaction. Mike and Jeff will be there from the forum. We'll do our Bison post-game show. So all the usual stuff you expect will be there, except the football game will be on ESPN Plus as the Bison look to knock off Southern Illinois for the 4th straight time. Remember, the Bison lost down there in the spring of 21. That's a long time ago.
It seems a long time ago, doesn't it?
For both football teams.
Yes. Yep.
On that. Mike, thanks for coming by. We'll see you on Saturday. We're back next Wednesday for another edition of the Bison Media Zone. We're here each and every Wednesday at 10:30 on WDAY Extra. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.